I'd say we're good to.
Awesome. Here we go. We're recording. It's all you.
Perfect. Well, welcome everybody, and thanks for being here. My name is Tim Floyd. I am currently an assistant principal at Huntington Beach High School in Huntington Beach, obviously. Um, so I'm excited to present. I'll be honest, this is the first time I've actually presented via Zoom. Obviously, I've done staff meetings and things like that. So if at any point I'm doing something wrong or stupid, feel free to point it out. I'm okay with that. And that goes for just questions and everything. Daryl is going to be monitoring the chat, so feel free to throw stuff in there. But with a group that right now is 20 something people, like I'm okay if you just want to unmute and just interrupt me, like whenever you feel like it's appropriate to interrupt me. I will not be offended at any way. So I'm going to go through just several things, obviously based on the title of this this presentation. It's 10 ways leaders can save time, be bold, and inspire. So I'll crank through 10 different things that that I think are things that can help educational leaders, whether you're a site administrator, district administrator, or even just someone who's looking to get into one of those roles. These are things that you can just kind of add to your toolbox to help you just, maybe be a little more effective. I've done this presentation in the past, and I did not like rethink it and make a COVID version because I just want this whole thing to be over as soon as possible. And I didn't want to like reinvent how to be an administrator during COVID because I'm hoping we're on like the tail end of that. I know there'll obviously be some like lingering things as we go into next school year, obviously. But a lot of the things I present, like you can still do this year, even though things are weird and funky this year. But there are a few things I may throw out there that you're like, well, I'm gonna hold that one for a year or so till I can actually do it in person. But so anyways, just really quick, just so I can like kind of figure out who's in here. Can people just put in the chat who you are, where you work, and what your role is, just so I kind of have a general idea of who's in this room with us. Hi, Christy. I enjoyed your session. It was very good. Awesome. This is a nice variety. So it's cool. There's teachers, there are site administrators, and it seems like there's some district administrators in here, kind of all over the place, which is great. So like, again, like you may be in a position where like you can utilize these things starting Monday, and you may not. And if you're a teacher, and maybe you're just in here and you have no desire to become an administrator, like maybe you can take some of these things and like throw a couple little soft drops at your own principal if there are things that maybe you'd like to see them do. I don't know, use this information however you see fit, but hopefully it's some good stuff. So before I start, one last thing, just a disclaimer, like, so I'll go to the next slide so you can see a little bit about myself. Obviously by the looks of it, you can tell I'm fairly young, right? No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, I've only been in education for 18 years total. This is my 6th year as an administrator. So like, by no means am I an expert at how to be the most effective, bold, and inspirational administrator. So a lot of the things I'm going to present are things that I've either just learned through experience, but also just things I've stolen from people, things I've learned at conferences. This is sort of just a compilation of ideas that like I said, I think will help people be better leaders, help you be more efficient, a little more inspirational, and just take risks and things like that. And just, again, overall, just be a better leader at your site. So I'm not going to take credit for all of them. And honestly, like you probably can't do all of these things at once. You'd be the most amazing leader imaginable if you could do all these things. So just take what works for you and take what you can kind of incorporate into your culture. So that's my background. Probably don't care too much, but I did all those things. And now I'm currently doing that thing, assistant principal at Huntington Beach High School. As I said, down there is my Twitter blog, which I don't do enough of, but I'll try. Okay, here's like the reason why this session kind of popped into my head a while back, and it was created. It was mostly due to things that I felt were challenges and obstacles as an administrator. Like I got into administration, and I'm like, I'm going to be different than all the administrators I had. Like I'm going to be better. Like I'm going to be in classrooms all the time. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then like the job actually hits you, and then you realize like there's a lot of obstacles to doing things the way you want to do it. And so you have to be sort of intentional and strategic about your day so that you can be the administrator that you want to be, because there are all these different challenges and obstacles that you face that sometimes can prevent you from being effective. And so I'm not going to go through all those, but like just if you look through that list, a lot of those things are probably pretty familiar. And a lot of it just boils down to really like that very last thing. There's just like a lot of crap. And I say that like genuinely, like not all crap is bad. It's just crap. Like it's just stuff that lands on your plate, lands on your desk. It's just stuff you have to do. So again, it's all about being intentional and strategic so that you can accomplish the stuff that's not so fun, but also do the stuff that's fun and meaningful for your school and your staff. Okay, so thing number one, you have to get out of your office. And again, this year may be kind of weird because you may be at a site where there's not a whole lot going on your campus, and you may get out of your office and walk around a campus that feels like a ghost town. Because I've been there. Like our campus, we've switched from started the year off distance, then went to hybrid, then went back to distance, and then we're going back to hybrid this week. So either way, still you should have some staff on your campus, whether the teachers are teaching or there's just classified staff. It's very easy to get stuck in your office as an administrator. You can actually, again, like I had all the intentions of hardly ever being in my office, and then real quick I found myself in there way too much. And so again, be intentional, get out of your office, because it's really hard to be an effective leader sitting behind a desk sending emails. Like people crave and people need real face-to-face contact and communication. Your teachers want it. They want you in the classrooms. The kids want to see you. The parents want to see you. And none of that is possible if you're stuck in your office. And again, there's stuff that you need to do in your office, but make it, be very intentional, even if it takes you out of your comfort zone. Because some of us, I feel like, have got comfortable being in the office, and you have to be uncomfortable sometimes to create new habits. And those are just a couple tweets, that just prove that effective administrators are not sitting behind their desk. They're out and about, with the staff, with the kids and all that. So here's a tip that I use every once in a while. And I don't do this like every time I'm going to leave my office for an extended period, but I do every once in a while. Just set an auto response on your email, which is pretty simple, probably no matter what email you're using, but I think a lot of us are probably using Gmail. So you can just set this up in the settings, just put a little note. And then that way, when people do send you an email, you now have permission to ignore it for a day, if you'd like. And it kind of serves a second purpose. It sort of lets people know, like, while you may be out and about on campus, you may not visit like every classroom. Again, depending on whether you're at like an elementary site or a high school. Like we have 120 teachers on our campus. So if I'm like out and about for a day, I'm not going to get to every classroom most likely. So if a teacher that I don't happen to see while I'm out emails me, they still know that you're out and about. And again, it's part of just the culture of your campus, people knowing that the leaders care enough to get out and see what's going on, and just have the pulse of the school like at their fingertips, and you have to be out. So just set that up for the day, for a couple hours, whatever you need to do. It's super easy to set that up. So that's one tip. And the reality is you can do everything you do in your office essentially from anywhere on campus, if you have, for the most part, just a phone. But if you want to walk around with a laptop, and even if that means like if you have to kind of sit down and do something a little more important, you can't just do it like walking on your phone. Sit down at a bench outside and like crank some stuff out. Again, just being out of your office is key. So I think if you make it a priority, I've had to do things in the past where it's just a simple thing as putting it on my calendar. It says 9 to 11, like visit classrooms. And then that alert pops up and I instantly just stand up and I leave, no matter what I'm in the middle of doing. It's just, again, you have to figure out what works for you. So put it on your calendar. use that auto response. If you have a team of administrators, like we have 4 assistant principals, so sometimes we team up and we'll go out in pairs because again, if I'm busy doing something, someone else is going to come get me. Hey Tim, let's go. And then again, drop what I'm doing that instant and just get up and leave. And I've never had any regrets, or I've never been like, well, no, let me finish this super important LCAP document I have to work on. Like, no, that stuff is not that. I mean, it's important, but it can wait. Like, it can wait. It's still gonna be sitting on your desk. So the priority is being out and about. So, and then when you do that, like you can, that last bullet point, a Google form or informal. At our site, we sort of bounced around. Like we created a Google form, and when we went into classrooms, we just checked a couple things off, like, was the engagement level high? We tried to do that so we could collect some data, and then we realized that that actually like didn't work for us. We didn't like filling out the form. We were just way more informal. And so, but some people like to collect that data. Maybe it was just data, so you know who you visited, but you can make a quick Google form and fill that out on your phone while you're visiting if you want to collect some data, it's just informally. It's just being seen. It's being visible. That's super huge. So a little bonus tip. I've used this just a couple times. Luckily, it hasn't had to be used too many times, but and obviously this year it's really not happening. But sometimes I found myself in a meeting with a parent, and it's not really going anywhere. And I love listening to parents that have concerns because my goal was to help. But sometimes those meetings can just take a little too long, and you kind of want to end it. And you can't. So sometimes you just want to sort of de-escalate a conversation. A good tip is to just tell a parent, like, "Hey, I want to keep talking. I want to keep hearing what you have to say. But I told Mr. So and so I'd pop into his class at 10:30 or whatever time it happens to be. Do you mind walking with me?" And then just walk with that parent around your campus. Even if you have no intentions of actually visiting a classroom, you can just pop your head in the classroom and say something to a teacher that the parent thinks that you had to do. But just that walking, it can definitely de-escalate a situation. So that's a cool tip I got from a former superintendent of mine. Okay. Anyone want to interrupt, share anything? Again, you can, if you want to share something that adds to this, great. I'll steal it and maybe add it to my presentation if you're cool with that. But maybe everyone else just wants to hear other things. So is there anything about just getting out of your office? Tips, tricks? All right, perfect.
I've got a really quick one. I use a spreadsheet where I keep track of what classrooms. I have a list of every classroom on my in column A, and then every row is dates that I walked around, and I put a little check mark next to the classroom that I visited. And then if you use a spreadsheet, you can insert a note, so you could write like the period or the topic or the subject, just so you have a sense of like, what classroom have I not visited in 5 days, or what classroom have I not visited, after lunch in 5 days or something like that.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. That's yeah, it can be as simple as just a spreadsheet. And when you get back, when you get back to your office, just write that stuff down. And what I have found along those lines is it's very easy to visit the same teachers over and over again, the classrooms that you're comfortable popping into, because they're more welcoming and things like that. And a spreadsheet like that will obviously sometimes highlight the people that you don't visit enough. And sometimes that's where that data is going to come in handy, is like making sure you pop into the rooms that you don't enough, because for a lot of different reasons, but most likely just because they're not as welcoming for whatever reason.
One thing I'd suggest is always have that list of who you have subs on campus, and your regular teachers are always going to appreciate you bouncing into those rooms with the subs a little bit more, and just give that teacher sort of just a quick summary. Hey, I walked in your room this period, the kids were great, or I had to pull this student out to talk to them quietly. That goes a long way with your teacher, feeling supported. The other thing, as an admin, try to insist on them never giving you a desktop for your office. Always ask for a laptop. And that way, you can always go out. If you have a main quad area, sit out when you do have to do work, go out there and sit in the quad in between classes. And you probably enjoy the outside weather, but also, again, you're visible, especially those kids that you see always going out and using the restroom.
So good. I love it. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I didn't even think of that. Ask for a laptop. That's great. Um,
Yeah, you get a desktop in your room, and that just gives you an excuse to sit in your office.
for
For
sure.
laptop, you're able to get in and out.
Awesome. I love it. I love
It
it.
also lets you buy a separate, monitor, so you can connect your laptop to that monitor when you are in your office, and you get double the screen size.
Yeah, I think having a laptop serves a lot of different purposes, but for the most part, it just allows you to be mobile. And again, if you're having to be intentional about getting out of your office, being able to work outside of your office is going to be key to that. It's going to allow you to stay out of your office longer. Cool. Thank you for those contributions. Okay, so this one I'll go over pretty quickly. This one, it just popped into my head because a couple years ago as a school, like we had our WASP visit, we had to go through that whole process, and we were working on our mission and our vision statement and all that. And as we were sort of like coming up with a new one, the conversations with the staff were actually like really cool and refreshing because it was the first time I had been a part of those conversations where people were like really wanting to avoid just sounding like a cliche, buzzwordy mission and vision statement where like everybody's a global citizen who communicates and is a critical thinker. And like you just use for a couple years there, I felt like everyone's mission statement sounded exactly the same. And, so it was a cool conversation, and it came down to, we will educate our students. We will inspire our students to change the world. Like simple as that. And so a statement like that sort of becomes a part of your culture. People know what it is, as opposed to this like run-on sentence of buzzwords that people create, and then it maybe sticks on a poster, and then people don't actually live the mission or the vision. So just some things to keep in mind as you're going through that process, whether it's like an official vision statement or just your actual vision. Make sure it's kind of communicated and it serves the right purpose. Like you should have a vision to get you somewhere, to create a culture, to move your campus to a certain spot, to make some sort of progress or make some sort of change, to inspire people. So if you're not seeing that, maybe it's time to just revisit that. And then if you see there's a link there, I'm not going to click on links and show it just for the sake of time, but that's a different presentation that I kind of whipped up and gave to my staff about 2 years ago. And it kind of talks about like just what the future unknowns are and how it's going to affect education. And so like as you're creating the vision, obviously you have to be looking into the future. Your vision can't be based on just what's going on right now. So kind of think about the future unknowns and create a vision that's going to help you like be flexible and adaptable when things start to change. Okay, social media. I'm assuming like at this point, every school has probably several different types of social media accounts, maybe a Twitter and Instagram, a Facebook, a combination of both. I myself have been like toying with like, how do we get a school Snapchat or TikTok? I'm a little scared to venture into that world because I'm not in that world, but that's where the kids are at, especially like on a high school campus. Like every single kid is on TikTok. And so like thinking like that and utilizing the power of social media, we all at this point know the power of social media, whether you're talking just about the influence that celebrities can have or politicians, or how politicians have used social media, especially over the last few years. It's super powerful. And that quote on the bottom is not mine. I believe I stole that probably from George Couros. But if you're not telling your story, somebody else probably is. And they're probably telling it on like some Facebook forum that the parents created or something like that. And a lot of misinformation gets put out that way. And if you're very active on social media and you're highlighting the successes and you're in classrooms and you're taking pictures of the cool things that teachers are doing, and you're constantly like just flooding your community with the positive and the awesome things that are going on your campus, that's your narrative. And it's hard for someone else to come in and change that narrative if you have control of it. And social media is really the only way you can do that at this point, to reach the entire community. Newsletters and stuff like that go out via email, like that's also super effective, especially for communicating information, but just highlighting little successes. And you can just see from these images, the one on the left is just a screenshot of my school's Twitter account. And you can see it's everything from, athletics awards to some science labs that were going on, highlighting our teacher of the year and her family. You do everything, it's all about the things that make your campus awesome should make their way onto social media. So again, find the right people on your campus. That may not be you. It's very hard. I learned it's very hard to be the person who runs that account while you're also still doing a million other things. So try to find somebody who can help you, and that can be another staff member, a teacher. I know people who have let students kind of run some of their social media. I know that's sort of risky, but hey, life's about taking risks. And if the kids really know the power of social media, and you've got that type of person, whether it's a student or not, like just find the right people who can help you tell your story, or else someone else will. And so just an extension of that, again, George Couros says it best when he says you have to make the positives so loud that the negatives become almost impossible to hear. And that's what I was saying. Like, if you're letting someone else tell that story, a lot of times it's not the story that should be being told to your school, because people outside of the school don't necessarily see all the awesome things, and you probably do. So make sure that you are documenting that stuff with images and quotes, and just do as much as you can to tell that story. So again, there's another link down there if you want that. It's old, it may be a little outdated. I'm going to look to maybe update it, but it's basically just a simple presentation to get more people on your staff on Twitter, because the more teachers you have on social media and you create a school hashtag, and everybody is sharing things, well, then you can just retweet things from your teachers, and you can just search that school hashtag, and you can find stuff to retweet, and then it's less work for you. So again, you can use it to be more efficient in telling that story if you get more people on board. And there's some school administrators that have done an amazing job of getting like a majority of their staff on social media, and then you're all telling the story. So it's awesome. Okay, professional development. So again, this was like a weird one that could have had like a COVID version, but the reality is I mean, here we are, right? This is professional development. So we've all found a way to do it. Teachers have, like on Monday, our whole staff has, 3 hours of different sessions, and Zoom sessions aren't necessarily the best, but it's what we got right now. So make the best of it. But this slide is just more about philosophy and culture. When I was a teacher, I had a principal that I approach about, hey, can I go to this conference? And I was met with a lot of no's. And obviously as a teacher, I didn't really understand like the budgeting side of things and all that. And there may have been like certain situations at that time prevented them from sending me to conferences. But as I became an administrator and working with my principal, who's awesome and shares the same philosophy, we just made it our thing to just say yes to every request. Like, we just simply say yes. It may be a yes, but find a closer conference than Maui, like type thing. Because we have been asked actually for someone to go to Maui. Someone wanted to go to Portland, so we're clear, like, look, we can't always pay for travel and hotel, but if you want to go to a $200 conference in Palm Springs, we'll make it happen. We'll find the money. We'll do what we need to do. And again, that may not be possible in every school, every district, but I hope it is. And if not, that's what I'm saying. That's where you need to take this information and start throwing those soft drops at the people who are obstacles or roadblocks to people learning. Because if you have those people at your site or in your district that are saying no, I guarantee you that I could comb through your budget and find some wasted money that could be reallocated for professional development. And so it's really just about that. You have to have the philosophy of saying yes and wanting people to learn, and then you just make it happen. And then obviously there's free PD, which is a majority of the PD, I would say these days, is stuff that happens on your site, led by your staff, and that's a lot of times the best stuff. So just make sure you're finding and creating time to always, make that a part of your, your regular schedule or your routine, whether you have like late start Mondays or early release Wednesdays or whatever. Make sure a lot of that time gets dedicated to professional development. And then obviously you can do professional development websites, or you can have it as part of your newsletter, things like that. Just constantly like showing that learning is a part of the culture of your school. That's important for you as a leader to model, that you support them learning and that you yourself are learning, which is what this slide is. You're all here doing this, and again, it's a little harder to share things out these days because you're not going to necessarily go back on Monday and have a staff meeting with 100 people in a room, probably. But people need to know that you as the leader are learning, that you're a lifelong learner. So make sure you're sharing it, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, you have your own blog, or you just email things out to the staff like, hey, I was at this conference, I learned this super cool thing. Like, people need to see that you're doing it, and then you'd be surprised at some people that alone kind of makes them think, okay, well maybe I should, I've been to a conference in a couple of years. Seems like the principal's like always going to conferences. That one thing might be the reason that they go. And then again, it's all about creating that culture on your campus of learning. And then when you do have things on your site, that second bullet point down there, this is big, because I've been at a couple different sites as a teacher and administrator. So when you do have like staff-led sessions at your school, what are you and your team doing as administrators? Are you engaging in it? Are you sitting at the tables? Are you participating? Are you going to those breakouts? Or are you sort of just like lurking around and looking like an administrator, right? Teachers will sniff that out real quick if you just look like an administrator, like you're checking boxes like, yep, we had 6 sessions. Yep, they're happening, but you're not actually in any of them, and you are acting like you don't care what's in them. So you got to get in there. Like, you got to know what's going on. Again, it's about the pulse of your school. So just get in there and don't lurk around and be a weirdo. Okay. I have no idea what time am I supposed to be done, Daryl? 12:10? Or am I way off on that? 12:10?
Yep, 12:10.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll take a little break right now if anyone has anything to add, or if there's anything in the chat.
I think for me, it's just going back to the social media one. That's the hardest one for me, I think, to do. Not because of time, just because it feels like some things that you would post would seem like you're gloating, and so that's a challenge, at least for me personally. How do you overcome that?
No, that's a great point. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay with gloating, I guess. I don't know. Because I'm not bragging about myself personally. So I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah, I ran the social media at my school for the last 2 years. And yeah, you do feel like you're gloating a lot, but then I think about it. We don't brag enough on our students and our teachers what they do right. And I was just thinking, that hit me hard this week, that I was thinking our principal gave us a compliment, and I thought, well, we don't need to be affirmed. And I said, wait, no, we do need to be affirmed. We need that, especially in this pandemic right now and with online teaching and learning.
I think also if it's not about you, it's about others and what the students are doing, how it's benefiting kids, how it increases, motivation in the classroom, and how much your teachers are excited. I think if it's always about sharing what other people are doing and how proud you are of them, then it's away from you. And the other thing to realize is people have no trouble slamming teachers. So maybe we should be less, worried about gloating, because boy, nobody's really too reserved when it comes to criticizing.
I think the one thing, again, as a public education teacher, one thing is that I think in public education, we've had a little bit of an arrogance that why do we have to advertise what we are doing right? Because we're public education teachers. And again, I see that's a big difference between the public districts and the private schools. The private schools are always out there putting out, applying for anything and everything that they can do. If you drive by them, they've got signs on their on their marquee and everything else. And I think as public education teachers, we need to put it out there. And also, we also want them to know, we want to encourage these people to join the public school instead of, I mean, I know I'll probably have some private school teachers in here, but there is a competition now. And the other thing is that you also want the people that are not having kids in the school, let them know what you are doing right. Because when bond measures come up, they're going to go, why should I vote for a bond measure? I have no clue what's going on at that school.
Yeah, I think those are all valid reasons to just share the good things that are going on, whether it's to just give the teachers some positivity and some props, because again, yeah, there's a lot of negative stuff, and it's nice to counter that with cool stories. But you're right, it could just be educating the community about the cool stuff, because maybe they haven't had a kid in school for a decade or two, and yeah, there's a lot of reasons, and the reality is I mean, in Orange County, pretty much every district in Orange County is in declining enrollment at this point. And so, yeah, you are competing for the most part. You're competing to get kids from the private schools, and a lot of districts have, interdistrict, intra-district transfers, and so you're competing with the other districts. You're competing with the other schools in your district for kids. Which then leads to more sections at your school. So there's that element of competition. So that's kind of the background of it. Like, you should be sharing your story because you do need to be promoting your school so that you are looked at favorably. But at the same time, it's really just about sharing cool things because it makes people feel good. I remember like one time as a teacher, and this was pre-social media, my principal just put something in a newsletter that I did. And like, I can't tell you how stoked I was to just be mentioned in a newsletter that the other teachers on my campus read. So it's just nice to share things. So, but I get it. It's hard. And sometimes it feels awkward. But I just think it's something that we have to embrace at this point. Okay, cool. So this little card on the right is something that we've done for a couple of years. Again, not really doing it right now, but this is a way for not only for you to not just get out of your office, but to actually teach. And for some of us, that's either putting you really like out of your comfort zone, or maybe for some of us, it's getting back into your comfort zone. But the reality is the teachers will really appreciate something like this. And we just threw one of these cards in every teacher's mailbox and said, hey, just let us know like the period you want to take off and we'll cover it. You don't have to even tell us why. And I don't know the exact number of people that took advantage of it. We didn't actually keep track because they were giving it to, there's 4 assistant principals and a principal. But I personally got about 15 of those things throughout the course of last year. So, and it was so fun. I definitely tell the teacher, like, if you're a math teacher, like, do not expect me to do any teaching when I go in there. I won't know how. I don't want to feel stupid. Don't put me in that situation in an AP calculus class to do anything. So sometimes you have to, like, depending on who's asking you, you have to be a little clear on what the lesson plan should look like. But I don't know, they never really expected much out of us, I guess, was the good thing. They just wanted the period off. So it was just a great chance to, like, just talk to the kids and just hang out for an extended, you're sitting there with them for, an hour, just talking to them. Yeah, maybe there's a lesson, but, I thought it was more important to just talk to the kids. And again, the teacher appreciated it. And it's just a cool thing to do. And it's super easy. Like, it's just, cut those things up, throw one in each teacher's mailbox and just see who takes advantage of it, see how it goes. But again, it's cultural. Like, it makes your staff realize that you care, that you want to help them if they're in a pinch or they're just tired and they just want a period off. It goes a long way on that end, but it also goes a long way on you getting out and being able to see what's going on. So super easy thing to do that I think goes a long way. So this sort of goes back to the social media thing, but it's also just about relationships. And if you haven't like seen the common like thread, like a lot of these things, they're pretty much all about relationships. If you do not build positive relationships with your staff, you're going to suck as an administrator. It's really that simple. Like you just can't be effective if people don't like you. Like that's just the bottom line. Like, you can get stuff done if people don't like you. You know, mandates and things, that's what they come across as. And you may, you know, you can put some things down that you've accomplished, but you're not going to last very long probably at that school. And it's probably not going to be very fun to work there if people don't like you. So it's really all about building relationships. And that's, you have to get out and about. You have to share the cool things that are going on. You have to be helpful when you can. And again, you have to celebrate the teachers that are doing awesome things. And sometimes taking a risk is an awesome thing. It may not like lead to anything awesome. It may be like a complete failure, honestly, but taking a risk is very hard for a lot of people to do. So when you notice a teacher do something new, like the teacher that's just like done the same thing year after year, and then all of a sudden they say like, hey, I'm trying this thing, like celebrate that, because a lot of teachers find it very hard to do that when they have gotten in their comfort zone, they have their routine and all that. So highlight those things in as many ways as you can, whether it's social media. We ordered these little note cards. You can get cheaper ones, obviously, if you don't want them like with your school logo on them. But I think we just ordered those through like Vistaprint when they were on sale, and they were pretty affordable. But you can just get cheap thank you cards or just write it on a piece of paper. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. But letters that we've written like 3 or 4 years ago, I still see pinned up on teachers' bulletin boards in their classroom. A simple little note they care about. And then the picture that you actually see was, we also gave a stack of these cards to the teachers and said, hey, write a note to some students, like students that don't normally get accolades for anything, just kind of like the kid who did something, you know, they've stepped it up and they worked a little harder. Maybe they went from an F to a D. That's big for some kids. Or maybe just a kid that did something nice that has nothing to do with academics. But again, it's just like creating that culture of celebration on your campus and sharing positivity. So handwritten things go a long way. But again, to be efficient, you can send emails as well. But I just found that the handwritten letters go a long way. Staff meetings, you can, the session I was in, Christy Flores' session earlier today, if you can go back and look at her slides, she had like a whole Google Doc of just like all these awesome things that you can do at staff meetings to just share highlights, build cultures, you know, just do cool things. So utilize those staff meetings instead of just information dumps that could be in an email. If you're getting everybody together, if you have your community and your family together, like try to make it awesome. Staff meetings don't have to suck. And then that last thing is something that I'm going to use this as a reminder to like do this. Like now, we actually just sent letters home to all of our seniors, handwritten letters to every single senior, because this is a tough year to be a senior, obviously. But that last thing is like, we did this a couple years ago. We mailed home one of these cards to one of our staff members' families. Like we just sent it to their house, mailed it to their address, and addressed it to either their husband or their kids, and just told them how awesome their wife or their husband or their mom or dad were. And again, just simple little things like that can go a long way. But just think about that personally, right? If your spouse or your kids got a little letter from somebody that you work with just saying how awesome you were, because maybe they don't know how awesome you are. They should. So this one goes to like you being a little, like don't be afraid to be kind of bold when it comes to challenging people, especially those veterans. I will say that this year, when it comes to like observations, I just sat through like an 80-minute AP art history class on Wednesday, and then I had to debrief with the teacher on Friday. And I'll be honest, the lesson was, it was a little rough to sit through 80 minutes of a Zoom about AP art history. And I think in a normal year, the lesson obviously would have been different. And I recognize that. And so in our debrief, like I had to acknowledge that. And I had to I just asked questions about like, how challenging is it this year, especially like in an AP course, a high level course where you have to cover so much stuff. And a lot of the conversations this year is, you know, depth, not breadth. And cutting stuff out of the curriculum. It's hard for AP teachers. So like, it was a good conversation, but I will say that this year we're not challenging people as much, you know. This is a year to be kind and have grace and be flexible. That's what we're encouraging our teachers to do with the students. And I feel like administrators need to be that way with your teachers this year. So in a normal year, we may be pushing people a little harder, you know, to be better, to be a little more reflective. This year, it's a little more survival mode. But again, you can use those reflection questions. That's going to take you to a Google Doc of, I don't know, probably 40, 50, 60 questions that you can use informally or formally. If you're doing like a formal write-up, just like, I know every district has like their own way you have to do those things. So use those how you can, but reflection questions and the reflection process should be huge in pushing and challenging people to be better, because it shouldn't be you telling them like, do this and you'll be an awesome teacher, because that is the definite wrong way to go about it. But getting them to reflect and knowing what questions to ask to get them to reflect is going to be key in getting people to kind of change old habits and create new ones. And that quote right there, teach 35 years, not 1 year, 35 times. I guess everybody, like, that quote just doesn't apply, right? Everybody was thrown off this year, whether they liked it or not. So, but still, you know, you have those teachers that just kind of, it's hard for them to break the habits. So reflection can be a huge part of that. Same thing, I'm not really gonna say a whole lot. This is just like illustrating the fact that if you don't push and challenge people, and if we all become too complacent, and I know it's hard to compare public education to capitalist businesses, but all those things on the left are all things that essentially just kind of came out of nowhere and upended entire industries and changed our society and changed like the way we do things, whether it's the way you get a ride somewhere. You know, it used to be like, don't talk to strangers, don't get in a car with strangers. It's like, now it's like what we do. We like get in cars with strangers. Like, things change. And the way we watch TV has changed. And so we just don't want somebody on the outside to come in and start affecting public education. We need to kind of disrupt it from the inside. And I think we can do that. But again, you have to kind of push and challenge yourself and others. Okay, time is running out, so I'm going to go quickly through this. But delegating things is not bad. And I had this conversation just the other day about, someone was like, but I feel like by delegating, people are thinking like I'm just pawning off like work. And it's like, it can come across that way, but it's all about just finding the right people. You know, let your people shine. Because again, there's a lot of stuff that ends up on our desk. And in order for you to be able to do the things you want to do, you have to delegate some stuff. So whatever that means for you, and this next slide just goes over, scheduling emails is kind of a nice thing to do. If you're the kind of person who likes to work at night, schedule them strategically so people think you're like working throughout the day. So that's delegating the technology. And then Canva is something that like I use a lot to just make things look like flyers. It makes things just look awesome. And I have no idea how to do graphic design, but it makes kind of look like I do. S'more will help you make that's the same concept with newsletters. It makes your newsletters look awesome. Calendly is a way that like I schedule appointments when I have to do like 30 appointments in like a 2-minute, you know, or like a 2-week period. There's going to be like a lot of appointments instead of emails and things like that. Calendly, if you haven't checked that out, is cool. And then a lot of our teachers this year are using youcanbook.me to set up like individual appointments, like kind of office hour things with students. So those are all awesome tools that can help you be more efficient. And then the last thing is like, look, this job, while there's a lot of stuff, a lot of stress, especially this year, it's just wild and crazy. Like, do not forget to have fun. We get to hang out with kids all day, which I would prefer over hanging out with adults in cubicles all day. So like sometimes you have to take a step back and realize, while we have stressful jobs and while our job is insanely important to the future of humanity, not to put any more pressure on us, but it's fun. Like, it's fun. And there's a lot of things you can do to have fun. And this is just a list of some things that you can do with your staff. But just always remember, like, no matter what kind of crappy day you're having, take a step back and realize it could be a lot worse. And we actually have a cool job. And that's why getting out of your office and just going and hanging out with kids and giving high fives when that's acceptable, again, give some elbows or whatever you got to do right now. But, you know, you got to get out and do those things and do things that just make you forget about the pile of stuff on your desk. And that's how you're going to get through the day. And that's how you're going to remember to enjoy your job. And that's what makes this job awesome. So with that being said, that is the end. We don't have time for questions, unfortunately. Maybe we have one, but anyways, you can reach out to me, email, Twitter. You can come find me. I'm at Huntington Beach High School. That might be weird, but that's where I work. Told you that already.
Helpful OCQ guy. That's right. That's right. Is that the blue
I had
OCQ
no
shirt
idea
there?
you guys were closing the sessions instantly. So like